There's a moment, late at night, when everything is quiet, and your dog shifts in their sleep. Maybe they curl tightly into a ball. Maybe they stretch out completely, legs twitching, chest rising slowly. Or maybe they press their back against you, just enough to feel you there. Most people glance at it, smile, and think, they're just sleeping. But what if that position, that exact way your dog chooses to rest, isn't random at all? What if it's telling you something deeper, something emotional, something instinctive, something you were never meant to notice so easily? Because the truth is, when your dog sleeps like that, something is happening beneath the surface. And by the end of this, you'll never look at their sleeping position the same way again. Most dog owners believe sleep is simple. A tired body rests. That's it. But dogs don't just sleep to recover. They sleep to process, to feel safe, to communicate, even when they're completely silent. And this is where it gets interesting. Because the way your dog sleeps often reveals what they can't express when they're awake. But here's what most people miss. They interpret it completely wrong. Take this scenario. It's evening. Your dog curls into a tight little ball, nose tucked into their tail, body wrapped in itself like a protective shell. You look at them and think, they look comfortable. Maybe even cozy. But that position, that small, compact curl, is something much older than comfort. It's instinct. In the wild, this position protects vital organs. It conserves warmth. It minimizes vulnerability. So when your dog sleeps like this, especially often, it's not just about being warm. It's about security. Now, that doesn't mean your dog feels unsafe with you. But it can mean they're still carrying a natural instinct to guard themselves, even in rest. And sometimes, it reflects something deeper emotionally. Dogs that are adjusting to a new environment, new people, or even subtle changes in your routine, often default to this position. Because to them, the world isn't fully predictable yet. And sleep is when vulnerability is highest. But we'll come back to that idea of vulnerability, because it explains something even more surprising. Now picture a completely different scene. Your dog is lying on their back. Belly exposed. Legs loose. Maybe one paw twitching slightly in the air. It looks funny. Almost careless. You might laugh and think, they trust me. And you'd be right, but not completely. Because this position is one of the most misunderstood signals in dog behavior. Yes, exposing the belly is a sign of trust. But it's also something more specific. It's surrender. Not in a negative way, but in a deeply emotional sense. When a dog sleeps like this, they are saying, without words, I don't need to protect myself right now. That's not just comfort. That's emotional safety. That's a nervous system completely at ease. Studies in animal behavior have shown that animals only enter this state when they feel there is no immediate threat, not just physically, but psychologically. So when your dog sleeps like this around you, it means something profound has happened. They've categorized you, not just as someone familiar, but as someone safe enough to let go completely. But here's the part most people miss. That trust isn't automatic. It's built. Moment by moment, day by day, through consistency, tone, presence. Which means every time they sleep like this near you, they're reflecting the environment you've created. And that brings us to something subtle, something almost invisible. Because not all signs are as obvious. Sometimes your dog doesn't curl, and they don't expose their belly. Instead, they press against you. Just lightly. Maybe against your leg, your back, or even just touching your foot. At first, it feels small. Almost meaningless. But it's not. This behavior comes from something deeply rooted in pack psychology. Dogs, by nature, are social sleepers. In the wild, they sleep close together, often touching. Not for warmth, but for reassurance. Contact means connection. It means, you're here. I'm not alone. So when your dog leans into you during sleep, it's not dependency in the way humans often think. It's alignment. They are syncing their sense of safety with your presence. But here's what makes it even deeper. Dogs can sense your emotional state, even when you're still. Your breathing, your tension, your subtle movements. And when they choose to sleep against you, they are not just seeking comfort. They are anchoring themselves to your calm. Which means if your dog does this often, it might be telling you something about how they experience you. Not just as an owner, but as a stabilizing force. And we'll come back to that, because it connects to something most people never consider. Now imagine another situation. Your dog chooses to sleep, not next to you, not even in the same room. They go somewhere quiet. A corner. Under a table. Maybe behind furniture. You might feel a little hurt. Why don't they want to be near me? But this is where perception can mislead you. Because independence in sleep doesn't mean emotional distance. In many cases, it's the opposite. Dogs that feel secure don't always need constant proximity. They know you're there. They trust the environment. So they allow themselves space. Behaviorists often observe that confident dogs, especially those in stable environments, will choose varied sleeping locations. Not out of avoidance, but out of comfort with separation. It's similar to a child who doesn't need to hold your hand constantly, because they know you're nearby. But here's what most people miss. If your dog suddenly changes their sleeping location, that's when it matters. A shift from sleeping close to sleeping far away can signal stress, discomfort, or even subtle health issues. Because dogs rarely communicate change with noise. They communicate with behavior. And sleep is one of the quietest forms of that communication. Now here's something that often goes unnoticed. The twitching. You've seen it. Their legs move, their ears flick, sometimes a soft sound escapes them. Most people assume it's just dreaming. And yes, it is. But dreaming in dogs reveals something fascinating. During REM sleep, dogs process experiences, emotions, interactions. It's not just random activity. It's memory, being organized. So when your dog twitches in their sleep, it can reflect their day. What they felt. What they learned. What stayed with them. Research has shown that animals replay experiences during REM, especially emotionally significant ones. Which means your dog is not just resting. They are reliving moments. And here's where it gets personal. If your dog experiences consistent stress, tension, or unpredictability, those emotions don't disappear at night. They carry into sleep. But the opposite is also true. A dog that feels secure, engaged, and emotionally connected processes those positive experiences as well. So even in their dreams, the life you create for them continues. Now let's return to something we touched on earlier. Vulnerability. Because every sleeping position, every small movement, ties back to this one idea. When a dog sleeps, they are at their most exposed state. They cannot react instantly. They cannot defend quickly. So their brain makes a decision. How safe am I, right now? And that decision shapes how they rest. Tightly curled, lightly alert, fully exposed, or deeply relaxed. It's not random. It's a reflection of their environment, of their trust, of you. And this is where everything connects. Because your dog isn't just adapting to the space. They're adapting to you. Your voice. Your consistency. Your emotional patterns. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to subtle changes in human behavior. A shift in tone. A different routine. Even stress you don't express outwardly. They feel it. And over time, it shapes how they rest. Which means when your dog sleeps deeply near you, exposes their belly, presses into your side, they are responding to something invisible, but powerful. The emotional safety you provide. But here's the part that stays with you. They don't understand safety the way we do. They don't analyze it. They feel it. Quietly. Instinctively. Without words. So when your dog sleeps like that, it's not just rest. It's trust, in its purest form. And maybe, that's why it's so easy to overlook. Because it happens in silence. No barking. No wagging. No excitement. Just stillness. But inside that stillness is something incredibly real. A bond that doesn't need to be spoken. A connection built in moments you don't even realize matter. So tonight, when your dog finds their place to sleep, watch them. Not just casually, but carefully. Notice the way they position their body. The way they breathe. The way they choose where and how to rest. Because in that quiet moment, they're telling you something. Not loudly. Not obviously. But honestly. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because you'll realize they were never just sleeping at all.